What's up, team?
What's up?
Good morning. Who's his first time in Vegas? Anybody? Oh, dang, quite a few. Wow. Well, welcome. For me, this is kind of a regular deal. Before I got into lead gen, I ran a trucking and brokerage firm, and I would come down here every week for a week for the World Concrete Convention. And if anybody's familiar with that space, right, it's construction, a bunch of vendors, suppliers, all that sort of thing, right? And some of our biggest clients, we landed from World Concrete. And so I would bring my top two sales guys, and we'd come down and we'd just pound the floors, right? So it'd be at the convention center, and that event is normally anywhere from 100 to 120,000 people, right? And so I've literally made some of my biggest deals walking the streets of Vegas. Boy, yeah, walking the streets, but. Today I'm going to talk about, kind of one of the biggest things in sales. Anybody know what that is? Yes, but it's filling the pipeline, right? The bottleneck of any business is sales. But if you don't know how to generate those sales and how to fill that pipeline, right, then you're going to always end up in a rut, right? Or you'll kind of ebb and flow, right? Where you'll build up a little bit of momentum and then it'll fall off. And so today I'm going to talk about what has allowed me to not only grow and scale my business in the lead gen space, but any business that I've ever been a part of. And it's something that Josh touched on yesterday for any of you that are part of the inner circle, because it's something that is, it's invaluable, right? And so, with that, right, it's called the 90-day blitz, right? Now, Josh mentioned, doing the 10 screencasts a day for 30 days, right? Anybody stepped up to that challenge? Anybody?
Starts on Monday.
Starts on Monday.
Yeah, because I'm not recording screencast while I'm in Vegas. I'm not doing it.
Okay. All right. So the reason for that is that it helps create a pattern, right? And the pattern is you get into the habit of picking up that phone and making an offer. And in sales, it's all about getting many commitments, right? You want those small yeses, right? Because success breeds success. And the more you can get those many yeses, eventually it'll convert to a sale. And so, generally speaking, right, kind of how a sales pipeline works, right? You reach out to 10 people, you might get 5 of those that'll say yes. 3 you actually get moved forward, and 1 you might convert to a sale, right? And so how the 90-day blitz works, right? You take that same process and you scale it out, right? Because obviously the whole point of this thing, we're here to make money, right? Obviously, Josh mentioned the 4 F's, and so the key to any of this is you got to know what you want. Yes, at the end of the day, everybody wants to make money, but what is the goal? What's your number, right? I got some pretty lofty goals. My number's probably going to be different from yours. I'm not sure if you guys know my story, but I played Division I college football and chose to hang up my cleats and not pursue it as a career, right? So I got into business, but I knew what type of monetary value can be had in professional sports. And so I figured if I got into the business that would allow me that same type of opportunity, then I'm all in. So, you guys familiar with some of the numbers that professional athletes can make? That just kind of give you an idea of what my goals are. So, to kind of take this a step further, right, we'll talk about prospecting. Now, I'm going to use football terminology with you guys, right? You guys cool with that? And is that all right? Okay, so the knowledge and skills that you guys are taught in BAM, that's your playbook, right? Now, for the football team, well, I guess NFL, we'll see if that happens, but college football is not happening this year, right? But generally speaking, you have about a 12-game season, right? And so each week is a chance to go out and prove yourself. Now, do you have any former athletes in here? Or played a sport, baseball, soccer, whatever have you? Okay, cool. So you guys know that, that when you are training, you put your playbook together, right? You got X amount of plays. With football, sometimes it can be upwards of 100 or more. Now, when you go into a game, you're not going to run 100 plays, right? What do you do? What do you do when you get ready for that week?
Practice.
You analyze the situation, pick what's best, huh?
Exactly, right? And that's why you study film, right? And so you can decipher and see what teams' tendencies are. And then from there, you come up with a game plan, right? So just like with the sports and going into a game, right? You take your lead gen business or your SEO, no matter what avenue you're going after, right? You develop a game plan, right? So for each 90 days, you break it down and game plan what niche, territory that you're going into, right? You become a student of the game, right? Josh yesterday, he talked about, about kind of sticking to spaces that you're familiar with, right? I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that if there's something that you see an opportunity in, you do your research, do your homework, you due diligence, and go for it, right? So, like for me, I'm in about a dozen different niches, right? And some of those I had no clue about until I started doing that research. And that's why your research worksheets are so important, because they leave clues, right? And so you can decipher like what might be some potentially low-hanging fruit. I just recently launched a lead gen in a sub-niche of a space, in plumbing actually, but a sub-niche of that. It's very high ticket, very high, meaning some of the procedures range anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000 for one job, right? So I had an old college teammate that actually was working for a company that was in that space, and they're in a large metro area, right? And their ad spend was somewhere around $40,000 a month, right? And so initially, I was doing my research because I wanted to come in, I wanted to just come in, right, get a little piece of that pie. And did a screencast, did a full 6 steps, and the owner decided that it was somewhat of a conflict of interest with their marketing agency that they already were working with. And so nothing happened from it. Well, a few months later, this buddy of mine ends up leaving, knew what I was doing, and was like, hey, what do you think if I came in and joined your sales team? And I already had done all this research in this space, right? I'd done the due diligence, so essentially I became an expert in their field. I knew nothing about it. Well, what do? I launched up a couple GMBs around this metro area, didn't add one citation, anything to them. Number 1 in the map pack. Nice. In 2 weeks, thing generates 12 leads. My buddy, who is an expert in this space, right? He knows people in relationships, right? He knows people in the industry, makes a few phone calls. We end up setting up a deal that we get $500 for every lead of a job that they put feet on the ground. Game plan. Can literally be a game changer. And so, with that, you take that into every aspect of your business, right? Who here only plans to build their business off of lead gen. Okay. Anybody here want to do strictly SEO? GMBs? I actually just hired a sales guy that worked for a larger agency where all they did was focus on GMBs, ranking GMBs for brick and mortar businesses. They're the six-figure earner. All they do is GMBs. Yes.
Do you happen to know what their per GAB was? I hear 400 or 500 at any given.
That's generally they're usually between 500 and $1,000 bucks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I've even gotten as much as $1,000 bucks for GMBs. But like I said, so even brick and mortar, right? And that's something that a space that we don't really even touch in, right? Doing lead gen, but the opportunity is there, right? And so we really have to start kind of unboxing what we're traditionally taught. And I don't even mean just necessarily in the lead gen space, but just as a whole, right? Because opportunity is everywhere. The skills that you guys have in this course, you can apply it to anything. You figure every business, 30 million some odd businesses in the US, they all need leads. Every single one of them. Right? So when you guys are making your calls or your email blasts, right, and you're getting no's or you're getting, oh, we're good where we're at. That's the dumbest shit ever. What business owner is good where they're at? I mean, yes, you may have some that kind of want to plateau off, but if you have the opportunity to grow, why the hell not? I've gone into spaces and taken over the entire market from stuff just like that. One of my lead gens that I had built, I was sending leads to a guy, calls me up. All right, we're booked. I can't take any more leads. I'm too busy. What? You're too busy? Hire another guy and get moving. He didn't want to do it. So I became his competitor. And I already have a lead gen, right? The GMB sitting there at the top. I was getting anywhere from 30 to 50 leads a month, right? So the pipeline, right, is already there. It's done. All I had to do is step in and just put the pieces in place to make it work. I average $4 grand a month doing that. One lead gen.
That's amazing.
Just from research. It literally stepped into a business. That's what you guys have in front of you right here. So, 90-day blitz, right? And I said because there's 4 quarters, and businesses are seasonal. Almost every business is seasonal. When I was in the trucking business, initially we were primarily focused in building materials, right? So you think of what does a contractor season look like, right? They build when the weather's nice. So come winter, business drops. Well, what does that do for somebody that's hauling freight for building supplies? Drops. And so, I had to, on my toes, right, trying to find something next. What's going to solve this? What's going to allow us to keep the thing afloat? So, ended up hiring a guy that specializes in produce, right? Frozen seafood, all these different sorts of things, right? Why? Because it offsets the seasonality. Not only that, but produce is time sensitive, right? So it costs more. We literally took our business to where we're doing maybe $100,000 a month. We're doing anywhere between $500,000 and $600,000 a month within 24 months. A lot of it based off of the 90-day blitz. Because my sales team, right? These guys don't know what they don't know, right? Even guys that are good in this space, right? You don't keep that pipeline going, right? Because customers, the law of attrition is real. And especially in the freight industry, client will leave you for cents on the dollar. Anybody in here lost a client in lead gen or SEO? Right? I have. What do? Get back to it, right? But it's a lot harder to get that momentum going again, right, when you're kind of falling off of it, rather than staying in that mode consistently, right? And so keeping the reservoir flowing, right, makes it easier to, for one, fulfill, and also to start outsourcing, right? And like I said, just from doing your research, right, and like Josh was talking about how he, what was initially got started in landscaping or something like that, right? And then he found out that actually he liked working with dentists, right? Well, it doesn't happen by accident. And the same with you guys. You can literally start taking over an entire industry with your research. And so when you are, you're doing your prospecting and you start, banging out these phone calls or your email campaigns, right? You take it over from one section to the other. In the freight industry, these are zones. And you guys can Google and look it up. You can see how it's mapped out as far as the zones for trucking, right? So you have like zone 1, northwest, and so on and so forth. And literally, like when you guys are prospecting, do it that way so it flows, right? And so then you're not like shooting from the hip. And you're like, okay, well today I'm going to work on Minneapolis. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to do Chicago. No, you literally start working zones, guys. And so even if it at 10 a day, right? You do 10 a day for 30 days, you can have 300 prospects. Do it for 90 days. So what does a year look like? Right? And we already talked about the law of averages. So, right. So if you land 360 clients, you guys are going to be so busy, you don't even know what the hell to do with yourself, right? So then you have to outsource. What do you have to do? You need VAs. You're going to need a sales team. You're going to need help. Because you're going to be so damn busy. If you don't, shit's going to fall apart. Why let it fall apart? It didn't have to. But that process will allow you to start building up that momentum to where you're like, oh man, right? Because in our space, right, it's all about who is the best problem solver, makes the most money, right? It's like you see the little pimple-faced kids working at McDonald's, right? That's where they make what they make. However, if you're a manager at In-N-Out, you can make 6 figures, but that's a different story. But so you solve big problems, you make big money. And in our space, it allows us to create some really big problems. One of my very first clients was a startup company, which is something that's generally not advocated in our space. Why? Because they don't have money. So I ended up getting these guys and gave them a discount, right? Anybody in the inner circle yesterday, Josh mentioned, kind of undercutting the competition, right? So in this particular space, leads going for around 25, 30 bucks, and I gave them to these guys for 12. Wow. Right? Well, after 2-3 months of working with them, I had them in the black, right? So our next meeting, they say, oh man, this stuff's really working, we like it, is there any way that we could maybe do this in some other territories? And I said, oh, well, actually, I already have lead gens up in some of these other spaces. So yeah, so let's talk about it, right? And so, so now, this one company that started out in this one town, now launching a nationwide campaign. We're doing, right now, 1 new territory a month. They want to move to 2 territories a month. So by the end of the year, have almost 50 lead gens, just one client. And we own it. I own it. Right? And so now they're talking about, trying to get, some seed money, talking to investors and whatnot, because now they see the potential of this thing, right? It can be huge. And so I'm like, okay, well, you guys want right? You guys want investors. I'm like, well, I'm the marketing guy. You guys have any plans on selling this thing? The sale of the business the topic of it doesn't even come up without mentioning me, right? So now partnership comes into play. Leverage. We have all the leverage in this space, guys. Anybody know where I'm at?
25.
Demetrius,
Yes.
as you're rolling it out, did you move up from 12 bucks then? Did you see the value?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And so basically how we map that out is, again, in doing the research, right? So certain markets, right, the demographics are going to be different, right? Median household income is different, right? And so depending on that location, the value might influx or drop a little bit just depending on where it's at, right? So, you know, for this particular space of lead gen in Manhattan, it's going to cost more than it would in Buzzard Nuts, Arkansas, right? And so you price it accordingly. And so also in doing that, it allows you to go in and be competitive, right? Because we know that we're not the only ones doing lead gen, right? And so you can go in and you can beat out a home advisor, because we can beat them out hands down anyway with just our value of leads. But when you can do it at a price point too that makes sense for the client and for you, and you can still make your nut, it's a win-win. And any prospect that can't see that, well, I don't want to do business with you anyway because you don't get it, right? And so that's another thing to think about when you are prospecting is what is my ideal client, right? A lot of people say that, you know, they want to do business with people that, you know, they wouldn't mind going in and you know, having a beer with or that sort of thing, or, you know, and some of my clients have become great friends, right? Go hang out, kids hang out together, this all those sorts of things. And so it's not just about dollars. Yes, you know, it creates the you know, the lifestyle that we want. And my wife and I, we like to travel, right? We actually had booked flights to go to Bali in November. They haven't opened up the borders yet, so it's probably not going to happen. But you know, we're about creating life experiences, you know, not just for ourselves, but for our kids, right? And exposing them to things that we didn't get to experience growing up. And this course presents all of that, right? It's literally, I mean, it's priceless. For what you guys invested to get into the course, I mean, to say discount is an understatement, right? Anybody have any questions about the 90-day blitz and game planning and how to narrow down that focus? Yeah.
What's your research process once you find a niche that you're interested in?
Also, can you say that a little louder?
What's your research process when you find a niche that you're interested in that you want to get into?
The research process? Yeah, so he asked what is the research process once you do identify a niche that you want to go into? And so obviously just from the research worksheet, right, kind of gives you a layout, right? But say for example, you want to get into concrete cutting, right? You want to get into concrete or asphalt paving, and you know nothing about asphalt. Well, there's a nice little tool that's right at your fingertips. It's called Google, right? And so that's the first step. But secondly, there is a website called Answer the Public. You guys might want to take that down. Answer the Public. Now, when you go to Answer the Public, I use it for a myriad of things. Anything from helping come up with content, right? Because it'll give you topics that are generally searched, right? And it'll give you a list of, you know, from a few up to a few hundred different topics that people search when they're looking for X specific term, right? So there is a great source. Answer the public. And from that, you guys can even use that in your scope of work when you are presenting to a prospect, right? You use some of that stuff in there and lay it out for them how you're going to be able to help them, right? Because at the end of the day, they don't give a shit about backlinks, citations, content. They don't care. They want results, right? And so the more that you can elaborate on how you're going to bring those results, the more you look like an expert, because you are experts. Because nobody is doing this like we're doing it. You know how many compliments I get off of screencasts? Even if I don't close them, they end up referring me to somebody, or you never know, right? The screencast are gems, guys. Perfect your screencast, and that is the golden ticket. Because nobody does it. There's a million marketers. Anybody heard of BNI?
Yep.
Well, marketers in BNI groups are like attorneys. Super saturated, right? So there's plenty of people doing what we do. But what we do helps you stand out. So first, you gotta know what you want, right? Plan of attack. From your playbook, you break down the game plan. And then you get after it. And that's the process. Because everything else will take care of itself, right? Even the most terrible salesperson will close deals if you do the numbers.
Yeah.
It's a numbers game. Obviously, the more reps you get, the better you get, right? You can up your averages. But at the end of the day, it's still numbers, right? Everybody knows Shaquille O'Neal is? Yeah. But one of the worst free throw shooters in history, right? But as he advanced in his career, he did eventually start upping his free throw percentage. How? How do you do that? Practice. You take more shots, right? So if you want to close more deals, you got to make more offers. Take more shots. It's simple. You got to do it. I know sometimes that phone can look like it has some massive sharp teeth, right? You don't want to pick up the phone. But after you make that first phone call, what happens? Right? That EKG level drops. Oh, boom. Next, next, next. And then before you know it, 10 calls? Oh, done. In the freight industry, my sales team, it'd be nothing for guys to knock out 75, 100 calls in a day. In a day. You land one client, that's $250,000. You think guys aren't hungry? Anybody seen Wolf of Wall Street? Yeah. Well, same opportunity is here in front of you, without as much risk. And you can own some assets too, right? So in the freight industry, there's a lot of big earners. There's a lot of money, right? And if, I would tell my guys, if you bought it, a truck brought it, right? So I generally, in the FB group, I don't talk about niches, but you want to talk about one? Boom. Freight. Everybody needs leads. Huge industry. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Even with automation of vehicles, freight industry is not going anywhere. Anybody have any questions? Nick? Well, let me get Nick first.
A little unrelated, but when you began making your calls to screencast, how well did you qualify that yes? Was it a secretary, was it the owner? At what point do you qualify to say, okay, I'm gonna do this for you?
Yeah, I mean, even getting a yes from the gatekeeper is qualification for that. Really, all you need is an email, right? And sometimes, you can kind of reverse engineer that. And a lot of times when people have problems getting past the gatekeeper, when I was in college, there's one of the main bars on campus called Taylor's Bar and Grill, right? And me and some of my teammates were obviously underage, right? We're freshmen on campus, and we would get into the bars. Why? Not just because we played football.
You got past the gatekeeper's bar.
Yeah. But because you act like you've been there before. You're like you're supposed to be there. And what I mean with that is when you're calling a prospect and you get a gatekeeper, which depending on whatever niche you get into, you may or may not have a gatekeeper. Sometimes the owner is the gatekeeper, right? But if you do, oh, hey, this is Demetrius, is John available? You don't need to go into a spiel, oh, hey, this is Demetrius, I do lead generation marketing, blah, 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 blah. Boom, lead laid off. Click, I don't want to talk to you, right? Why? Because you sound just like every other unit that's calling up trying to make a sale. Yeah, like you've done it before. So what do? Research. There's tons of spaces where you can find out the name of the business owner, right? One tool that I use, our library, there's a business directory. And you guys probably have one wherever you're at. Just get a library card and whatever online platform that your library uses, they usually have a business directory. You can get in there, go far and wide. There's more leads than you guys could ever, you couldn't even get through them all. I challenge you to get through them all. Josh, wow. And so that's how you do that. And what's your question?
Yeah, I'm just a little slow with writing and stuff.
Okay.
Earlier you touched on when you're making cold calls and something, people say, no thank you, I'm good where I'm at. What's your response to that?
Well, there's a few ways, right? So Eddie's question was when you're calling a prospect and they give you the no thanks, I'm good, how do you respond? And I mean, you can do that one of two ways. One, just move on to the next one, right? Because he's not hungry. Depending on the market, right? If you know that there aren't a ton of businesses to be able to prospect from, then you might want to do some coaxing, right? Or you might give it some time. The thing with sales, right, is a no doesn't mean no until they tell you to go F off, right? Sometimes it just means not right now, right? Because you never know, right? These guys they're small business owners. Sometimes you don't know what what their home life is like, right? They may have some marital issues going on. They may have some stress at work. Maybe he's embarrassed to say that he doesn't know how to fill the pipeline, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes that answer is just auto response, right? So sometimes come back, give him a week, come back, right? One of the things that I've used that has helped also kind of, I wouldn't say break the ice, but kind of rub some shoulders, is when you get that initial no, go back, leave them a review in their GMB, right? A positive one, and then call them back and say, oh, hey, this is Demetrius. The last time we spoke, you said you were good, and I know how important reviews are for your business, and so I went ahead and left you a review, and then you can kind of get back into your spiel, right? And so we call it retargeting, right? And so what you're doing, you just kind of loop back in, right? Until you get a hard no, like, get the hell out of here. Let's find something to keep going back and add value. And so I mean, with that, guys, like there's always opportunity, right? And that's the true sign of a professional, right? You always find a way to win. And with that, right? So prospecting, right? Focus with a game plan, and then map it out, right? And you can literally go coast to coast. You can go north to south, east to west, whatever. Right? And I know obviously like, we talk about like kind of starting with what's familiar to you, but with some of the things that I've shared with you, you see how now you can take an idea and literally blow the thing up. You can have businesses pop up out of nowhere that, I mean, shit. I mean, will anybody sneeze at $4,000 a month? You know how to do it, right? You can build it. You gotta get moving. So, I know there's some of you in here that, you know, may only have like one lead gen up. Why? Time is the same amount of hours in the day that I have, Josh has, Nick has. You are doing yourself a disservice by not building. Build, prospect, outsource, rinse and repeat. When you put yourself in a position to where you can't handle it and it's getting overwhelming, well, that's when it's time to leverage. You start leveraging your time, finding a VA, hire a sales guy. I challenge all of you to hire a salesperson. And people do work strictly commission. Especially right now, you think somebody wouldn't want to come in and earn, and you tell them what the potential is on you give them 40, 50% split on a deal. And it doesn't have to be recurring, but like an initial, right? You close a deal, 50%, boom. Oh, I don't want to give up 50%. Well, shit. You want something nothing or nothing, right? You get what I mean? It's doable, guys. Build this thing. Was any of the information I shared today helpful?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Let's keep growing. Let's build. I'll see you at the top.